Hello, everybody out there. Whoa, that was weird. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody out there. That's better. Wow. Um, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Maybe I'm tired. Uh, anyway, let's try it again. Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to another deep dive as we continue going through Now Comics, the Terminator series. We're at issue 9. And I am Mark Stanislawski. I am also Good Ideas Comics. Please comment, like, subscribe as we go through these books. Um, Give comments. Have you read this series? And if you have, um, what did you think of it? What did you think of the series as a whole? What did you think of each issue as we go through it? I'd like to hear what you think. Um, Watching the videos, my opinion is it's a solid series. It's a solid series, especially the main story. Even though to me it's it takes place in 2031. We have had name drops, Kyle Reese who disappeared, but I still say that this is maybe an alternate universe take on what happened after Kyle Reese left. Anyway, let's get into it. As we can see, I believe this is a Tony Akins cover. It's a pretty decent cover. Not as good as the last few covers that we've had, but it's pretty decent. Actually, if you look at the letters page at the end, um, Terminator 9, in here it says that there's a Paul Galassi um, painted cover for an issue 9, but that's not issue 9. That's the next issue. Issue 10 actually has the Paul Galassi cover. Um, the best that I could see is that this is a Tony Akins cover, but it's not credited within the book. So, and I've tried a few resources and haven't really found a definitive. Of course, now Comics just started putting the approved by the Comics Code Authority stamp on these books, which to me is extremely odd, considering uh, the Terminator is an R-rated movie, and this series is based on an R-rated movie. But they've toned it down and they've made it like PG, kid friendly PG. Like, I mean, it's not G because people do die. So I guess it's like a kid friendly PG. It's the type of PG movie that I would see, when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, that type of content. Although those movies had more swearing than even this book does. But anyway, again, a direct copy, direct version. It was odd as we've gone over it. For the first 5 issues I had were newsstands, but a lot of these later issues I bought in one big lot. So to me, I think the rest of them are going to be direct versions, which is fine. I don't doesn't bother me one way or the other. We start out right off the bat. No, there's no credits here. Like in the first 8 issues. This is an ad, and then we get into the story. Um, I guess I didn't realize that uh, so many moon people were still alive. It seemed like every issue after they were introduced, like one moon person killed herself, and the others who died seemed to have been all moon people. But I have not obviously been able to keep track of who's who in the book. So there's more moon people. Um, so there's like this guy back here, and I think these three are people from the moon. And then there's Conrad, the artificial cyborg being, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they're all, they made it out of the titanium mine in Florida. and they're kind of regrouping, and they had a little flare up here between the people in the Sarah Slammers and the Moon people, but they get everything settled down, and then they find Deford. Now, Deford is the guy who was kidnapped by the Terminators. He's a command strategist for the region. The Terminators wanted him to find Sarah Slammers because that Terminator has definitely a hard on to kill Sarah Slammers. So they rescued Deford, and then of course the leader of Sarah Slammers, instantly goes crazy and I guess smacks him with an open hand, which is kind of weird. I mean, I figured you would punch the guy, not smack him, but because the Terminator found them in the titanium mine base because of Deford, so he's not happy about that. And that makes sense. And this is kind of an odd. This is kind of an odd. I mean, I guess he's following through. He's following through, and then the other guy holds his arm. So it just seems like a very odd pose uh, to draw and to have in the panel. Seems kind of weird. But they talk about how Conrad and did they think Conrad and Tim Reese, Kyle Reese's brother, are dead because they got separated. But they are not dead because, after that the first few pages, we now change course to Conrad and Tim Reese, who, of course, did make it out alive. And we have our little credits box. We welcome in new writer Ron Fortier. Tom Tenney, Jim Brosman still doing the art duties. We have a new colorist, Suzanne Dechnik. And then all the other people that worked on the book. Ron Fortier, not to say anything bad about Jack Herman, but you could definitely tell a difference in quality between this issue, like from last issue to this issue. There's definitely a difference. I think the story under Ron flows more smooth. This is kind of a catch up issue um, between for Ron Fortier, the writer, and for the reader. There's not really much going on. It does move the story forward, but it's kind of an interlude, catch up. Hey, what's going on so far in the story? It's weird because they got Tim Reese, who Kyle Reese's brother, and they draw him like a girl. They make him look like a girl, and I don't know if I don't know. That's weird. I mean, I know he's got long hair, but it's just like his facial features are girlish, feminine. So that's kind of weird. Of course, Conrad, they're trying to escape. There's gators because it's Florida, so there's gators in the water, and he is able to dispatch the gator with ease, and they're off to find the group. Now, we have another interlude, we switch scenes again, and there's the Terminator. Now, reading this issue, I found some interesting things about this Terminator, which also supports my theory that this is kind of like an alternate timeline. Not it doesn't follow the movie. This is more of an alternate future, Terminator future that Now Comics has come up with. And the first thing is the Terminator does have an obsession with killing Sarah Slammers, which it's a machine. Yes, it may have um, AI programming, right? Which it allows it to function autonomously. But in the future here, it's still connected to Skynet. So they should all be still kind of subservient to Skynet. But here, um, he uploads his report to Skynet, and Skynet is like, he doesn't understand how this human Conrad, who's not a human, as we know, but they don't know it, was able to stand toe to toe with the Terminator. And the Terminator seems to get frustrated, which again, Terminators, if you watch the Terminator movie, they don't really show emotion that much, and he's getting frustrated, he's getting angry, he's he's getting he's showing all of these emotions, right? Which which is different. And we could chalk that up to, maybe his AI intelligence uh, is is becoming self-aware to the point where it goes through emotions, anger, and especially when the Skynet sends a hunter killer to pick him up, you know and he's impatient. It's about time because it took a half an hour for the hunter killer, the HK, to get to him. And then he says, okay, let's go home and see what has gotten daddy all riled up. And again, there's sarcasm, there's it's just kind of weird to see all of this type of behavior from a Terminator, knowing knowing that it's a robot, knowing that it's is it AI? The other Terminators, yeah, I mean, it would have to be AI, right? So maybe his AI, maybe that's part of the story. As we go down the road, the AI will become more self-aware, become kind of a rebel, right? It's going to break away from Skynet. That seems to be where that's going, but we're going to find out. We go back to Sarah Slammers, the the main group with the Moon People, and Deford finds out about the Moon People, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And they go through again. Ron Fortier uh, takes us through why the Moon People are there, brings the readers up to speed. Maybe somebody came in late, missed the first three issues, came in with issue 4 or 5, and doesn't really know. He's bringing readers up to speed, and this is what you do in comics. And that's great. He's bringing himself up to speed, and he's bringing the readers up to speed at the same time. And we get drama. You're right. We get the 2 pages of drama, and they have the HK, and they're like, what? They've never seen this. They've never seen humans, especially Deford, right? Um, take over an HK and then fly one. So, and then of course, as they're flying over, they come across Conrad and Tim Reese, who of course don't realize that their friends are in that HK. So now they're going to get separated even more. And they come across a dog. Now, as we saw in a few issues ago, there was a um, remember a Terminator dog. I don't. This isn't a Terminator dog though, but they come across this settlement. It's kind of weird because this old lady is just here, and she's living alone by herself. Apparently, she's a Seminole Indian woman, and she's kind of just stayed under the radar, lived by herself, and and so we continue the story as she Conrad's got some injuries, some broken things, and she says, I know, she knows a place where they can fix him up. And so she's gonna show them that place, and bring him there so that he can get fixed up. He can get repaired. And then we go back to the Sarah Slammers group. They're flying. They come across a battle, and this is the guy on horseback, Iron Horse, um, and he's fighting HKs and Terminators on horseback with the cavalry. Which, okay, I guess that'll work. So Sarah Slammers, they take the HK. HKs aren't going to fire on another HK. They come in between two HKs. They blow one up. And then the other HK says, "Wait a minute. This is wrong. It's been infiltrated. It's been taken over. So they're coming after him." But the cavalry takes care of the HK. Iron Horse and his cavalry takes care of the HK with a rocket launcher. They land. And they talk to Iron Horse, and he's like, "Oh, there's a lot of Terminator activity going up at the old Canaveral Space Center." And Deford's like, "What activity? What kind of things are they doing at the Space Center?" And he says, "You ain't going to believe this one. My spies tell me they've built themselves some kind of war shuttle, and they're getting ready to launch in a few days to go to the moon, because supposedly there's a secret moon base that Skynet recently discovered. A moon base with humans that have been hiding there, Skynet, for over 30 years." And of course, the moon people are like, "Oh no. Skynet found out about the moon base, and he's going to send a bunch of Terminators to destroy them." Very good issue. Again, Ron Fortier, he's moving the story forward. Now we have another issue with Sarah Slammers. They're going to have to go to space and stop the Terminators from going to the moon. Is this where the story's going? Are they going to go to the moon? I don't know. We're going to find out. Nice to see the letters page back. What was it about? There is something in the letters page. Apparently, in 3 more issues, we will see John Connor within the series. So, I mean, that's good. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Terminator number 9. Again, another solid issue. I like where Ron Fortier is going, even though I'm not a big fan of the Moon People. I think it's kind of a silly concept in a Terminator comic book, but here we are. I'm growing warm. I'm growing warm uh, to the concept, right? We'll see where Ron Fortier takes this story. As we saw last issue, okay, we were losing, right? So at its peak, issue 6, 7,100 copies. This is just Capital City distribution. These are not including diamond numbers. Capital City distribution at the time distributed comics for about 30% of the country at that time, 1989. So that was the top number. And then issue 7, as we saw, went down a little bit. Issue 8 lost actually a substantial number of copies, 600 copies. That's a lot. What about this issue? Issue 9. Issue 9, wow, it stayed the same. 8 and 9 stayed the same. So that's actually a good sign. And you don't see that very much in indie comics. Um, Again, 1980s were a totally different animal concerning indie comics. The fact that issue 8, issue 9, the number stayed the same for two issues, 2 months in a row. That's pretty rare. Again, this was a hit movie, so you would expect good numbers. And the story itself is engaging. It's a good story. I think the story could have been a little more adult, but I understand why they kind of made it the way it's made, and I get that. We still have Mitch O'Connell's first issue cover as the corner box art, very good, and remains to be seen whether that number, that order number, is going to stay the same. Will it go down with issue 10? Will it go up with issue 10? That would be interesting to see if it did or it didn't go up. I expect it'll go down. You got 2 months in a row where you have the same number. I can see it. Hopefully, it doesn't lose another 600 copies, because at that point, you're pretty much saying that the readers, have just started pulling out. Okay, they're done with this story. Whatever they liked about it, gave it a chance. They're done with it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, uh, like, comment, subscribe. That's going to be it for this video. As you know, we're after we're done with the Terminator. There's a possibility of a few things. I know I want to go through a couple of the triumphant books. What did I say? The Chromium Man and Prince Van, or we can do Marvel's Darkhold Book of Sins series. So make sure you comment and let me know what you'd like to see. Do we want to go to a mainstream Marvel book, or do we want to stay with the indie books, um, and talk about that stuff? Triumphant was an interesting indie company, and eventually I'm going to get to it because I have a lot of things to say about it, and I think I think the books themselves are interesting. The stories and where they were going with these characters. But at any rate, this is going to do it for this deep dive. Thank you very much for joining us. And as always, we'll see you in the funny pages.